Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we're here for another entry into the Writer's Quotes playlist here on the channel. This will be the 28th video in the Writer's Quotes playlist, and not a quote. Today's video is not a quote, it is a subtitle, but it is a subtitle that comes to us from Friedrich Nietzsche, however the hell you want to say his name. It's all right with me. You can call him anything you want, just don't call him late for dinner. It is the subtitle, somehow. I've never heard the subtitle to Twilight of the Idols. It is Twilight of the Idols, or How to Philosophize with a Hammer. Somehow I've never heard that, but the subtitle there, How to Philosophize with a Hammer, I think is incredibly insightful. Look, with Nietzsche, you can make entire videos on the titles of his works. But How to Philosophize with a Hammer, I think, is incredibly useful for writing. Writing is, whether we like to admit it or not, it is our own philosophizing. It is a quote from Flannery O'Connor that says, "I don't know what I think until I read what I say." If it was good enough for Aunt Flan to say that our writing is our philosophy, if it was good enough for Flannery, then it's good enough for me. I think that we have to admit on some level that everything that comes through our little digits and onto a piece of paper or into the keyboard or however it is that you do compose, that's your philosophy. Now, this does not mean that it has to be unironic. It does not mean that you have to sit down and say exactly what it is that you think. Oftentimes through literature, what we're doing is we are finding some ironic twist onto something that we think we are presenting the wrong. We are presenting the bad guy as opposed to the good guy. What we're doing is we're presenting an idea through something we do not endorse. A good example of this might be Animal Farm. Animal Farm seems to be a critique. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to be a critique of communism, socialism, etc., as opposed to a full-on endorsement of it, though while reading it, we do enjoy many of the characters therein. So I think that what we're doing here is we're admitting that what we have to do, I think, is admit that all writing comes down to philosophy of one realm or another. That is not to say that one has to sit down with a pipe in their mouth in order to write what it is that they want to write. It's simply saying that once these things come out of you, and there are writers who think that the writing mechanism is something esoteric and spiritual or completely unpredictable. Regardless of that, you should be editing, right? So this statement, how to philosophize with a hammer, how to write with a hammer. It is important, I think, to write with a hammer. What does this mean? How to philosophize with a hammer. Don't take things lightly. Don't take things lightly. Don't just, look, you've got to kill your darlings, and you've got to kill everything else in the meanwhile. Until you get around to the darlings, there's a lot of other stuff you've got to kill on the way. I think that one of the things that keeps so many people from writing something true, Ernest Hemingway said, write one true sentence, and that's how it all starts. Something that keeps so many people from writing one true sentence is the fact that they're holding too many things precious. Sometimes even the act of writing itself is held as precious when it cannot be. We have to break it. We have to break it down, break it apart, crumble it in our handsies in order to make something greater of the work that we're doing. We have to break the resistance that keeps us from the page. And then once we've got things on the page, we've got to break those things. We've got to keep breaking things because that's the only way to make them stronger. It's an evolution. It is an evolution of writing. It's an evolution of the writer's spirit. philosophize with a hammer, write with a hammer. Don't take things lightly. I don't know what I think until I read what I say. I think that it is in this way, by not knowing what one thinks until one reads what one says, that we really start to come into our own and learn our own voice. Not too long ago, someone asked me, how do you, I feel powerless with words. How do you get over that? And I think that what you have to do is you have to read a lot and you have to write a lot. I know. No one's ever heard that before. No one's ever said that before. Read a lot and write a lot. That's the only way you get better at writing. But what it does is you will, if you're writing with a hammer, if you're philosophizing with a hammer, you're reading with a hammer too. And what you do is, along the way, you're going to chisel off little bits of things that you like. You're going to pick up, of Mice and Men, and you're going to start reading along, and you're going to come across something. Let's see, what is it? I've got something marked here. We're going to find it. George went on. With us, it ain't like that. We got a future. We got somebody to talk to that gives a damn about us. We don't have to sit in no bar room blowing in our jack just because we got no place else to go. If them other guys gets in jail, they can rot for all anybody gives a damn, but not us. Lenny broke in, but not us. And why? Because I got you to look after me, and you got me to look after you. And that's why. He laughed delightedly. Go on now, George. You got it by heart. George said, that might seem kind of fanciful. That might seem kind of lukewarm writing, until you take into consideration the very end of this story. What old George has to do to old Lenny at the end of this book, this short book, this novella of Mice and Men. Until you take that into account, that seems kind of trite, kind of a silly little bit of writing. But if you hammer it off and you realize this is the kind of stuff that you have to bury inside of your writing, I like it when something like that is buried in there. And then by the end of things, it comes full circle, and we have to go blowing into our jack at the bar because there's no one there. There's no one there to care for us. When you break that little bit off, you chisel it out, you hammer it off, and you take it with you. And you say, I like that. I like that type of thing. So you finish your story and you go back and you take the end of your story and you say, what would make this even more sad? What would make this even more excruciating? I'm going to take that little scene, that little scene from Of Mice and Men, and I'm going to put something comparable earlier in my story, and that becomes your voice. You recognize that. And when you write, you're going to start picking up little bits of your own voice, little things that you like to do with the language, little aspects of characters that you like to employ. Maybe you really like unreliable narrators and what you can do with that in a story. And because you like unreliable narrators and you like things that become excruciating from the end of the story, you get a little bit of what it means to be you. So in this way, when we're always writing with a hammer, when we're always reading with a hammer, when we're always getting to know our own philosophy with that hammer, not a hammer and sickle, or will be upset with you. But when you take a hammer along with you, and you get to know writing and reading with a hammer, as opposed to something malleable, as opposed to something less, more credulous, as opposed to something less mortifying. When you treat things in this way as if they are meant to be shaped, as opposed to, maybe it'll work out, you really take a hold of your own writerhood. And I think that is why that subtitle from Nietzsche struck me so hard when I heard it. I don't know how I've never heard that before. I don't know how I've never heard that as the subtitle to Twilight of the Idols. But that is all I have for this, the 28th video in the poetry. Just got done doing a whole lot of poetry discussions. The 28th video in the Writer's Quote series. If you like this sort of thing, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe in order to get more writer's quotes in the future. And I hope to see you back for the next video.